Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another live streaming of... May sound na? Okay. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another live streaming of tax training. And we will continue with our discussions on Revenue Regulations 11-2018, which is about the withholding tax, no? Ito yung withholding tax under the train law, no? Okay. So, yung na-discuss natin last time, no, nagtapos tayo sa section 3, no, of these regulations. So, before that, I would like to shout out, no, thank you po sa ating mga subscribers. Umabot na tayo ng 6,640 subscribers ngayon. So, thank you very much, and please continue to support us, and we promise to give you more tax updates, no, yung mga tax information na kailangan natin sa pang-araw-araw at saka sa business natin. We promise to bring you the purpose of this tax training is for you to have a better tax compliance. So shout out muna tayo. Sino na yung mga nandyan, Hari?
Si ma'am, Eunice So. Magandang gabi daw po.
Okay. So, shout out po, Miss Eunice So. No? So, good evening din po, and thank you for watching.
Siya pa lang po yung nagko-comment.
Ilan na yun nandyan?
May 7 na po tayo sa YouTube, ma'am. Sa Facebook po, 4 pa lang po.
Okay. So thank you, no? And we will discuss the withholding tax na regulations, pero as we go along, pwede din po kayo mag-post ng questions na tungkol sa tax, at sa abot po ng ating makakaya, we will answer your questions, no? Okay. So ito yung section 3 ng Revenue Regulations 11-2018. This amends section 2.57.3, persons required to deduct and withhold. So since we're talking about withholding, sino po yung mga tao na required to deduct and withhold the withholding tax, no? Okay. The obligation to withhold is imposed upon the buyer, payer of income, although the burden of tax is really upon the seller, income earner, payee, hence unjustifiable refusal of the latter to be subjected to withholding shall be a ground for the mandatory audit of all internal revenue tax liabilities, as well as the imposition of penalties pursuant to Section 275 of the Tax Code as amended upon verified complaint of the buyer or payer. So, sino dapat ang mag-withhold? The buyer or the payer. Why the buyer and the payer? Because nasa kanya yung pera na pambayad doon sa goods or services na pinurchase niya. So, siya yung nakadesignate ng gobyerno para i-withhold niya bago niya ibayad ang payment doon sa seller, no? Ang sabi ng gobyerno sa kanya, tanggalin mo na yung tax and then ibayad mo na sa gobyerno, i-remit mo na sa BIR. So, in case the buyer or the seller ayaw magpa-deduct sa buyer ng withholding, ang buyer, sasabihin niya sa BIR, and that will be the cause of mandatory audit of all tax liabilities of the seller na ayaw magpa-withhold. Why? Kasi mandatory po ang withholding. So, hindi pwedeng sabihin mo na ayaw ko magpa-withhold. Why? Kasi bawat transaction is subject to income tax. At ang wini-withhold po dito, sinasabi dito is income tax, no? Wala namang exemption dito yung nasa business, no? Kaya magbayad ng income tax. That's why yung income tax na yan, pinapa-withhold na doon sa tao na nasa kanya yung pambayad para doon sa isang transaction, no? So, provided, however, that an individual seller or income earner payee may not be subjected to withholding under Section 2.57.2 hereof if the source of income comes from a loan income payer and the total income payment is less than 250,000 in a taxable year. Why? Kasi ang 250,000 is 0% ang income. So, hindi na kailangan magbayad. That's why, hindi na mag-withhold. So, in this case, the concerned individuals shall execute an income payee-sworn statement. Meron yan dito sa withholding na, or regulations na to, and we will discuss it sa index na, no, sa last part. So, ano yung execute niya? The income payee-sworn declaration of gross receipts or sales, which is Annex B2, that shall be submitted to the loan payer, no? Para hindi siya i-withhold ng payer. The payee-sworn declaration shall be submitted to the loan income payer of income before the initial payment of income or before January 15 of each year, whichever is applicable. So the income payer or withholding agent shall in turn execute its own income payer withholding agent's sworn declaration, Annex C, stating the number of payees who shall not be subjected to withholding taxes and have duly submitted their income payer sworn declaration and copies of COR, no? Yung copy ng Certificate of Registration with the BIR, COR. Together with the income payer withholding agent sworn declaration is the list of payees. Sinong gagawa niyan? The withholding agent, who shall not be subjected to withholding tax, which shall be submitted by the income payer withholding agent to the concerned BIR office on or before the last day of January of each year or on the 15th day of the following month when a new income recipient submitted the payee sworn declaration to the loan income payer or withholding agent, no? So yun ang requirement. Gagawa ka ng sworn declaration mo na yung income mo or gross receipts mo, hindi siya lalagpas ng 250,000 para hindi ka mag-withhold. And in return, the withholding agent will also make a sworn declaration ng mga yung ilalagay ng withholding agent naman na sworn declaration is Annex C, no? Na ito at kasama diyan yung COR or Certificate of Registration ng seller para naman hindi siya magwi-withhold, no? So but it is reported to the BIR. So kailan 'yon? Every before the last day of January of each year, no? Or on before the 15th day of the following month when a new income recipient submitted the payee sworn declaration, no? Sa monthly naman yan. So the income payer withholding agent sworn declaration or Annex C shall be filed in 2 copies with the concerned large taxpayer service, revenue region, or revenue district office where the income payer withholding agent is registered and shall be distributed as follows: original copy for the BIR and duplicate copy for the loan payer or withholding agent, no? So yun ang sworn declaration. The duly received income payer withholding agent sworn declaration, including the required list, shall serve as proof that the income payments made are not subject to withholding tax, no? Kasi pag na-audit ang payer at hindi siya nag-withhold, subject siya sa penalty. That's why ito yung mga requirements para yung payer hindi ma-penalize, no? In the event that the individual payer's cumulative gross receipts in a year exceed 250,000, nag-exceed na ng 250,000, so magiging taxable na siya because only the 250,000 is not subject to tax, no, to income tax. So, nag-exceed na ng 250,000, the income payer withholding agent shall withhold now, no, the prescribed withholding tax based on the amount in excess of 250,000 despite the prior submission of the individual income payer sworn declaration. So kahit nagbigay pa siya ng sworn declaration na hindi lalagpas yung kanyang income ng 250,000 since na exceed na, then hindi na yun susundin, magwi-withhold na ngayon yung income payer ng tax doon sa excess sa 250,000, no? Sa excess lang naman kasi ang 250,000 is exempt, no? On the other hand, if the individual income payee failed to submit an income payer sworn declaration to the loan income payer, withholding agent, the income payment shall be subject to the applicable withholding tax, even though in a taxable year the income payment is 250,000 and below. Failure on the part of the seller to submit the sworn declaration, sa subject siya sa withholding kahit hindi siya umabot ng 250,000. Bakit? Penalty yun sa kanya kasi pinapasubmit siya ng sworn declaration para hindi siya ma-withhold, hindi siya nag-submit, no? So ano yung presumption? Ang presumption is nag-exceed ka ng 250,000. That's why dapat mag-withhold na, no? For individual payees, the income payer, withholding agent, shall withhold the prescribed withholding tax rate, no? So in case there are two rates prescribed, the higher rate shall apply, no? If, no? Kasi di ba sa withholding sa professional, 5% and 10%. So kung wala kang ibibigay na sworn declaration, doon ka sa higher, no? Which is the 10%. The payee failed to provide the income payer withholding agent of the required declaration. So, higher ang i-withhold sa iyo. Or, number 2, the income payment exceeds 3 million despite receiving the sworn declaration from the income payee. So, yung income payment exceeds 3 million. No? So, for non-individual payee, the income payer withholding agent shall withhold the prescribed withholding tax rate, no? So in case there are two rates prescribed, the higher rate shall apply, no? So higher rate ang withhold. If the payee failed to provide the income payer withholding agent of the required declaration, or number 2, the income payment exceeds 720,000 despite receiving the sworn declaration from the income payee, no? So ito yung illustration natin. No, ito yung example po dito sa Revenue Regulations 11/2018, no? Illustration 1. Maganda kasi pag may illustration, mas naintindihan natin yung application, no? At saka hindi tayo maligaw kaysa basahin lang natin yung regulations, hindi natin masyadong naiintindihan, no? So illustration 1, Miss Tina supplies special cupcakes on a regular basis to RPSB supermarket, no? A top withholding agent pursuant to section 2.57.2 of these regulations. So prior to 2018, her annual sales to RPSB supermarket never exceeded 250,000. So since hindi nag-exceed yun, sa 250,000, wala pang exemption noon, no? Prior. So pagdating na ng 2018, saka pa lang nag-exempt yung 250,000, no? She only bakes cupcakes upon order. So, RPSB supermarket is her loan payer of income. Thus, she executed the sworn declaration of gross receipts stating that her gross expected receipt shall not exceed 250,000 for the year from RPSB supermarket. However, in the latter part of 2018, RPSB supermarket noted that its purchase of cupcakes shall exceed 250,000. So as expected, in 2018, the total purchase of cupcakes to RPSB's supermarket from Miss Tina amounted to 300,000. So, 300,000 na, nag-exceed na siya ng 50,000 sa 250,000. Computation, in this case, RPSB supermarket shall withhold the amount of 500, computed as follows. Gross receipts, 300,000, less amount not subject to withholding tax, 250,000. Income subject to withholding tax is 50,000. Multiply the expanded withholding tax rate of 1%. So multiply that to 50,000, which is the excess of 250,000. Then the amount of withholding tax is 500. No? So RPSB supermarket is included as top withholding agent. Pag ang top withholding agent, mandatory po na lahat ng purchases nila, nagwi-withhold sila ng 1% for purchase of goods and 2% for purchase of services. No? Thus, the rate of income tax withholding is 1% for the payment made to Miss Tina, the supplier of goods. No? So, yun po yung example. Instead na wala siyang withholding, 250,000, nag-exceed siya. So, yung excess ng income over the 250,000 is now subjected to 1% withholding tax because sale of goods. Illustration 2. Mr. Marvin was hired as a courier by GOD, no? Collection Services, Inc., under a contract for service for 1 year with payment on the basis of the number of letters notices delivered. So in the past years, Mr. Marvin's gross receipt from the said company never exceeded 250,000. So in 2018, his gross receipts amounted to 230,000. No? So computation, in this case, GOD Collection Services Inc. shall withhold the amount of 4,600 computed as follows. No? So gross receipts 230,000, less amount not subject to withholding tax 0. Income subject to withholding tax 230,000 multiplied by expanded withholding tax rate at 2%, the amount of withholding tax is 4,600. No? Okay. Bakit? Hindi man siya umabot ng 250,000. The withholding tax rate applicable in this year is 2% since Mr. Marvin is a supplier of services considered as service contractor. However, no withholding shall be made if Mr. Marvin executed a pay-as-earned declaration in accordance with the format in Annex B2 provided under these regulations, and the same has been received by GOD Collection Services, the loan payer withholding agent, and processed in accordance with prescribed policy. Kung nagbigay si Mr. Marvin, pero in this illustration, hindi nagbigay. So, silent. That's why kung silent siya, hindi ka rin sigurado, then you have to withhold. If ikaw yung withholding agent, no? You have to withhold the 2% kasi services na. At saka, hindi alam ng GOD kung meron pa siyang ibang services, no? Sa ibang company. That's why, in the absence of any proof or information na less than 250,000 lang talaga ang income, wala kang information about it, then you have to withhold. No? Section 4. Section 2.57.5 of our number 2-98 as amended is hereby further amended to read as follows. Section 2.57.5. No? Ito na yung exemption from withholding tax. No? The withholding of creditable withholding tax prescribed in this regulation shall not apply to income payments made in the following. Okay. Shout out, Hari?
Meron po shout out po kay NM Tanada. Good evening daw.
Okay. So, good evening po in Tanada, no? And thank you for watching. Shout out po sa iyo.
Pati po kay Alexandra Sansan.
Okay, so shout out po Alexandra, ano ang apelyido?
Sansan.
Sansa?
Sansan.
Sansan?
Apo.
Okay, so good evening po and thank you for watching.
Good evening din daw po ma'am, sabi ni May Christine.
Okay, so shout out Miss May Christine. Good evening and thank you for watching also.
Sila pa lang po ma'am.
Okay. So ito naman yung in-amend ng Section 4, no, ng RR 11-2018 about this withholding. So letter B, persons enjoying exemption from payment of income taxes pursuant to the provisions of any law, general or special, such as but not limited to the following. No? So ito yung mga exempted sa withholding tax. No? So number 1, sale of real property by a corporation which is registered with and certified by the Housing and Land Use Regulatory Board or the HLURB or the Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council or the HUDCC as engaged in socialized housing project where the selling price of the house and lot or only lot does not exceed the socialized housing price applicable to the area as prescribed and certified by the said Board Council as provided under Republic Act Number 7279 and its implementing regulations. So, magkano yun? Magkano ngayon? No? Okay. So, corporations which are exempt from the income tax under Section 30 of the Tax Code as amended, and government-owned or controlled corporation exempt from income tax under Section 27A, C of the same code, to wit, the GSIS or Government Service Insurance System, the Social Security System, the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, and the local water districts, no? So, exempted yan sila. However, the income payments arising from any activity which is conducted for profit or income derived from real or personal property shall be subject to withholding tax as prescribed in these regulations, no? Next is the joint ventures or consortium formed for the purpose of undertaking construction projects or engaging in petroleum, coal, geothermal, and other energy operations pursuant to an operating or consortium agreement under a service contract with the government. Provided, however, joint ventures or consortium formed for the purpose of undertaking construction projects shall comply with the following conditions to be considered as joint venture, not taxable as corporation. Should involve joining or pooling of resources by licensed local contracts, that is licensed as general contractor by the Philippine Contractors Accreditation Board or the PCAB of the Department of Trade and Industry. These local contractors are engaged in construction business, and the joint venture itself must likewise be duly licensed as such by the PCAB of the DTI. So, joint ventures involving foreign contractors may also be treated as a non-taxable corporation only if the member foreign contractor is covered by a special license as contractor by the PCAB of the DTI. And the construction project is certified by the appropriate tendering agency or government office that the project is a foreign financed, internationally funded project, and that international bidding is allowed under the bilateral agreement entered by and between the Philippine government and the foreign international financing institution pursuant to the implementing rules and regulations of the Republic Act Number 4566, otherwise known as the Contractors License Law. So, yung mga contractors na may pooling of resources, exempted po sila sa withholding. Number 6, individuals who earns 250,000 and below from a loan income payer. Ibig sabihin, isa lang yung source of income niya from the source supplier or seller. So, upon compliance with the following requirements, the individual has executed a payer's sworn declaration of gross receipts in accordance with the format per attached Annex B2. The sworn declaration has been submitted to the loan income payers or withholding agent on or before January 15 of its year or before the initial income payment, whichever is applicable. So, illustration 3, ito na yung illustration dun sa binasa natin na mga exempt from withholding. Illustration 3. Mr. Will, a messenger, was hired by Barangay MRU Health Center under a job order arrangement. His monthly pay is fixed at 15,000. So he provided Barangay MRU an authorized sworn declaration of gross receipts. Barangay MRU is the loan income payer of Mr. Will, which was likewise indicated in the aforesaid sworn declaration. So the computation, the income tax to be withheld shall be computed as follows. Annual income tax, 15,000 times 12 is 180,000. No? Tax to be withheld is 0. Why? Kasi yung 250,000 is exempt. So yung 180 is kasama doon. No? Mas maliit pa. Mr. Will submitted to Barangay MRU the notarized payes sworn declaration stating that his gross receipts shall not exceed 250,000, and since the actual receipts for the year did not exceed the said amount, then the income payment was not subjected to withholding tax by Barangay MRU, a local government unit, no? But it may also withhold business tax depending on the income tax regime selected by Mr. Will as indicated in his sworn declaration. Kasi ang barangay is government, no? So meron silang requirement na yung government money payments, pati yung business tax, withhold, no? Okay. Section 5. So, may mga questions? Hari?
Wala po, ma'am. Shout out lang po, ma'am.
Okay, so sige, shout out muna.
Good evening daw po, sabi ni Ma'am Irish Nario.
Ha, always, every night talaga si Miss Iris, no?
Balik nga daw po.
Okay, so shout out Miss Iris and thank you for watching ulit, no?
Tapos good evening din daw po, watching from Cavite, si Gabriel Kang.
Gabriel Kang, no? Shout out and then thank you for watching Miss Gabriel, no? Thank you for watching. No? Sana huwag kayong magsawa. Yung ating live streaming, no? Kasi dito na tayo nagbibigay ng mga tax updates. Meron pa?
Wala lang po.
Okay. So, tuloy lang po tayo. Kung may mga questions kayo, sasagutin din po natin, no? Okay. So, Section 258, Returns and Payment of Taxes Withheld at Source. No? So, letter A, manner, venue, and time of filing of withholding tax returns and payment of taxes withheld at source. No? So, taxpayers mandated to electronically file and pay shall use the BAR electronic system, no? So, ano yung electronic system? Yung e-filing natin. While those not mandated has the option to either use the said electronic system or file with the authorized agent banks or AABs under the jurisdiction of the Revenue District Office where they are registered. Withholding agents located at municipalities where there is no AAB, the return shall be filed with the Revenue Collection Officer, no? Assigned the said municipality, no? In cases na wala talagang bangko. The filing of the withholding tax return, BAR form number 1601EQ, ito yung quarterly, for creditable withholding tax, and form numbers 1602 for final tax on interest on bank deposits, 1603 for final tax withheld on fringe benefits, and 1601 FQ for all other final withholding taxes, and payment of the taxes withheld at source shall be made not later than the last day of the month following the close of the quarter during which the withholding was made. So, quarterly, no? Quarterly sila. Yung 1601 EQ is the form for the quarter, no? For this purpose, the quarter shall follow the calendar quarter, hindi fiscal quarter, ha? So, for taxes withheld during the quarter ending March 31, shall be remitted by the withholding agent on or before April 30. The return filed shall be accompanied by the quarterly alphabetical list of payees. Ito yung alpha list, no? Kung kanino ka nag-withhold. Sino yung mga na-withhold mo during the quarter. Reflecting the name of income payees, taxpayer identification number or the TIN, the amount of income paid segregated per month with total for the quarter, all income payments prescribed as subject to withholding tax under these regulations, whether actually subjected to withholding tax or not subjected due to exemption, and the total amount of taxes withheld, if any, no? So, considering the taxes withheld by the withholding agents are held in trust for the government, and its availability is an imperious necessity to ensure sufficient cash inflow to the National Treasury, then withholding agents shall file BIR monthly remittance form, BIR form number 0619E and or 0619F, no? Ito yung monthly naman, kanina yung quarterly, no? Every 10th day of the following month when the withholding is made, regardless of the amount withheld. For withholding agents using EFP's facility, the due date is on the 15th day of the following month. Yung 5 days extended yung deadline nila. Withholding agents with zero remittance are still required to use and file the same form. So, itong 16 ano yung mga forms kanina na dapat i-file, no? 1601 FQ. Yan yung pang quarterly. So ano yung pang monthly niya? Merong 1601 EQ, no? Yun yung quarterly. Meron din yan na 1601 E na pang monthly, no? And then yung 0619F, no? Meron siyang 0619 FQ, no? Pagka quarterly, no? Okay. So may deadline every 10th of the following month. Pagka naman EFP is every 15th of the following month, no? So in the case of sale of shares of stocks not traded through a local stock exchange and sale of real property considered as capital asset, the filing and payment of the tax due thereon shall be made within 30 days after the sale or disposition using BIR form number 707 and 706. Ito yung magbayad tayo ng capital gain sa sale ng property, no? Or yung sale of shares of stocks, no? For sale of real property considered as ordinary asset, the remittance of tax withheld shall be made on or before the 10th day following the month of transaction using BIR form number 1606. So, ito yung mga dati pa na form, no? 1606. Pagka-creditable withholding tax, kasi ordinary asset siya used in business, no? So, letter B, withholding tax statement for the taxes withheld. Every payer required to deduct and withhold taxes under this subsection shall furnish its payee a withholding tax statement, no? Withholding tax statement in triplicate within 20 days from the close of the quarter. The prescribed form, BIR form number 2307 for creditable withholding tax and BIR form 2306 for final withholding tax shall be used, showing the monthly income payments made, the quarterly total, and the amount of taxes withheld, provided, however, that upon request of the payee, the payer must furnish such statement simultaneously with the income payment, no? So, annual information return and annual alphabetical list of payees for income tax withheld at source. The withholding agent is required to file with the concerned office of the large taxpayer service, revenue region, revenue district office, where the withholding agent is registered the following. Number 1, annual information return of creditable taxes withheld or expanded, income payments exempt from withholding tax, BIR form number 1604E, ito yung annual na alpha list, no? Including the corresponding annual alphabetical list of payees on or before March 1 of the following year in which payments were made, no? And number 2, annual information return on final income taxes withheld, BIR form 1604F, including the corresponding annual alphabetical list of payees on or before January 31 of the following year in which payments were made, no? Section 6. Section 2.78.1 of RR 2-98 as amended is hereby further amended to read as follows. Section 2.78.1, withholding of income tax on compensation income. No? So, compensation income defined. No? So, bago tayo tumuloy sa compensation income, balikan lang natin yung sa withholding natin, no? Sa mga purchases natin, yun yung creditable income tax. Pag nagbayad tayo noon, sabay, nabigyan din natin ng 2307 yung kung sino man yung withheld natin. Yung ginagawa ng iba, yung practice ng iba, hindi na nila hinihintay yung deadline na magbigay ka ng 2307 which is quarterly. Ang ginagawa, every time na magbayad ka ng withholding, nag-withhold ka. So, pag nagbayad ka ng cheque, halimbawa doon sa buyer mo or sa seller mo, sabay na sa cheque na pambayad mo, sabay na rin doon, binibigay na yung 2307, yung certificate of withholding, no? Kasi, para hindi na pabalik-balik at hindi ma-late naman yung taxpayer. Kasi, sa mga previous experiences natin, hindi na na-file yung withholding kasi walang certificate na binibigay itong si payee, no? Hindi nakabigay agad. So, nagkaroon ngayon ng letter notice itong buyer, no? Kasi hindi niya nakuha yung withholding, yung certificate, hindi niya na isama sa pag-file. Then, anong ginawa sa kanya ng BIR? Pini-penalty because meron siyang transactions na hindi na-declare sa kanyang income tax return o sa kanyang VAT returns because of the failure of the payer to or payee to give the necessary document as attachment po doon sa VAT returns at saka sa income tax return, no? So, ang gagawin natin, bigay na kaagad yung BIR Form 2307 para hindi naman malate yung kausap natin. So, yun na yung mostly na pinapractice, no? Okay, let's now go to the withholding of income tax on compensation. Sinong nagwi-withhold ng withholding tax on compensation? It's always the employer. Oh? Okay. May shout out?
May shoutout naman, may mga questions na rin po.
Sige. Ano muna tayo bago tayo tuloy sa compensation.
Shoutout mo naman kay Ma'am Tetay Vallejo.
Okay, so shout out, no, palagi din siyang nandyan. Shout out, Miss Titay Vallejo. Thank you for watching.
Tapos sabi po ni Mark de Guzman.
Si Ikaw, Mark. Hello?
Sabi po niya, Ma'am, hello po kain sa amin. Papamahagi po ba kayo handouts po?
Right now, hindi pa ako gumawa, pero sige, prepare kita. Although marami kami, hindi na lang kami nagpiprint ngayon because nga, yung tinatawag natin na electronic copies na pwede i-email na lang namin sa iyo, no? Or sa messenger, no? Hari, bigyan natin siya ng mga handouts na na-discuss natin so that pwede na dyan sa messenger. Kaya naman ngayon na ng messenger no? Malaki na yung files na pwede. Okay. Sige po. Thank you for watching also Mark.
Good evening din daw po, ma'am, sabi ni Sir Romeo Pelayo.
Hindi ko siya sagot palagi doon sa yung inano niya na bahay, no? Pero maganda, no? I-shout out ko na lang dito yung may binibenta po na bahay si Sir Romeo Pelayo. Napakaganda dito, malapit sa SM Fairview, no? And at a very reasonable price, no? So kung gusto nyo, pwede po kayong mag-inquire po kay Sir Romeo Pelayo. Okay.
Dito na po tayo, ma'am, sa mga question.
Sige.
Sabi po, question po ni Ma'am Irish Nario.
Okay.
Ang government-owned businesses po ba may withholding tax din po?
Yes po, withhold din sila. Especially those government-owned and controlled corporations doing business, withhold din po sila. No? Kasi subject din sila sa income tax. No? Income tax and also business tax, nagbabayad din po sila.
Next question, ma'am, galing kay Mark Philip SUA.
Okay.
Sabi niya, ma'am, totoo ba sa government agency na di na kailangan mag-withhold ng 3% pag non-VAT at nag-avail ng 8% ang supplier?
Yung supplier is yung option rate na 8%, no? So, ipakita nyo sa may COR na pinakita nyo dapat sa government para hindi na sila mag-withhold, no? Kasi nag-avail kayo ng option rate, kasama na doon yung 3%, no? So, magkano lang yun? Below 3 million yun, ha? So, take note. Kasi pag sumobra na kayo ng 3 million with your transactions with the government, dapat nagpa-withhold na kayo, no? So, tama po na hindi sila mag-withhold because you avail of the option rate. Binabayaran mo na yun sa 8% na binabayad mo sa BR. Kasama na doon yung 3%. So, kung mag-withhold pa sila, madodoble na.
Yung parang ma'am, wala na po.
Okay. So, tuloy lang po tayo, no, sa compensation. So, sa compensation, facilities and privileges of relatively small value, ito yung mga de minimis benefits, no? The following shall be considered as de minimis benefits not subject to income tax, as well as withholding tax on compensation income of both managerial and rank and file employees. So, pag sinabi mo de minimis benefits, mga malilit na benefits lang, hindi na po siya subject to income tax, kaya hindi na dapat mag-withhold, no? Letter A, monetized unused vacation leave credits of private employees not exceeding 10 days during the year. So, halimbawa, di ba, may free tayo na vacation leave, no? Hindi mo nagamit yan, pwede mong i-monetize, no? Hindi siya kasama sa withholding. Okay. Letter B, monetized value of vacation and sick leave credits paid to government officials and employees. So dito, kasama sa monetization ang sick leave. Sa private employee, hindi, no? Pero sa government kasama. Medical cash allowance to dependents of employees not exceeding 1,500 per employee per semester or 250 per month. So yung medical cash allowance is also considered as de minimis benefits, so hindi na rin po magwi-withhold, no? Okay. Ano pa na ang de minimis benefits? Ito yung letter D, rice subsidy of 2,000 or 1 sack of 50 kilograms rice per month amounting to not more than 2,000, no? So yung not more than 2,000 na rice subsidy, hindi na rin siya subject to withholding tax, no? Kahit binigay mo yan sa employee. And letter E, uniform and clothing allowance not exceeding 6,000 per annum, no? So hindi rin siya subject to income tax, considered as de minimis benefits, no? So exemption from withholding tax on compensation, the following income payment are exempted from the requirement of withholding tax on compensation, but may be subject to income tax depending on the nature, sources of income earned by the individual, no? So, yun yung sinasabi natin na exemption from withholding tax on compensation. So, ano yung hindi subject, no, sa withholding tax on compensation? 13th month pay and other benefits. Magkano yung limit? The 90,000, no? So, ano yung mga included doon sa 13th month pay and other benefits? Letter A, 13th month pay equivalent to mandatory 1 month basic salary of official and employees of the government, whether national or local, including government-owned or controlled corporations and or private offices received after the 12th-month pay, no? So, yung 13th month natin. Other benefits such as Christmas bonus. So, ito yung mga kasama sa 90,000, ha? Productivity incentives, loyalty award, gift in cash or in kind, and other benefits of similar nature actually received by officials and employees of both government and private offices, no? So, including the additional compensation allowance or ACA, granted and paid to all officials and employees of the national government agencies, including state, universities and colleges, government-owned and/or controlled corporations, government financial institutions, and local government units. No? So sila yung mga kasama. The above stated exclusions under A and B shall cover benefits paid or accrued, during the year, provided that the total amount shall not exceed 90,000 pesos, no? Which may be increased through rules and regulations issued by the Secretary of Finance upon recommendation of the Commissioner, no? So after considering among others the effect on the same of the inflation rate at the end of the taxable year. No? So right now, hindi pa ito nabago, still 90,000. And next is the GSIS, Medicare and other contributions. No? Hindi rin siya subject sa withholding tax on compensation. That's why kung merong contributions, i-deduct mo na sa salary. No? Bago mo i-subject yung salary, tanggalin mo muna yung payment for GSIS, SSS, Medicare, and other contributions. No? Pag-ibig contributions and union dues of individual employees. Next is compensation income of minimum wage earners. No? Talagang hindi yan sila subject to withholding tax. No? Who work in the private sector and being paid the statutory minimum wage as fixed by the Regional Tripartite Wage and Productivity Board or National Wages and Productivity Commission applicable to the place where he or she is assigned, as well as the compensation of employees in the public sector who are paid not more than the statutory minimum wage applicable to non-agricultural sector as fixed by the RTWPB or NWPC applicable to the place where he or she is assigned. Why? Kasi bawat place, iba-iba ang minimum. No? So yung minimum wage is not subject to tax, but yung minimum wage na Metro Manila is different from the minimum wage of the provinces. No? Kaya kung ano yung applicable na minimum wage sa lugar, yun yung magiging exempt from the withholding tax on compensation kasi hindi siya taxable. Okay. Question.
Galing po kay Jennifer Francisco.
Okay. Shout out, Miss Jennifer Francisco.
Paano po kapag ang lessor hindi registered sa BIR pero nag-withheld po kami? Ano po maging proof namin as rental expenses? Baka ma-disallow po.
Papirmahin nyo siya na every time na magbayad kayo, papirmahin nyo siya na na-receive niya yung payment. No? Kasi bakit? As withholding agent, it is your duty to withhold. So kung hindi siya nagpa-register sa BIR, siya na lang yung ipe-penalize ng BIR, hindi kayo. Pero kung hindi kayo nag-withhold, hindi rin siya registered sa BIR, hindi nyo maklaim na expense yung rental expense na kiniklaim nyo. At anong mangyayari? Maki-question pa kayo, bakit nandyan kayo sa lugar na yan at hindi kayo nagbabayad ng renta, which is impossible, no? Ma-underdeclared pa kayo ng unaccounted cash kayo, which can be source of deficiency taxes nyo later on. Kasi ang unaccounted cash is treated as other income, no? So, dapat tama lang po yung ginawa nyo at ang proof nyo, since wala siyang resibo dahil hindi nga siya registered sa BIR, papirmahin nyo siya every time na magbayad kayo sa kanya ng rental para maklaim nyo as rental expense, no?
Next, ma'am, galing po kay Ralph Rosario.
Okay, so shout out Ralph Rosario. Thank you for watching.
Sabi niya, ma'am, please discuss final withholding of VAT po sana. Ano po transactions kailan po mag-withhold ng VAT?
Final withholding on VAT.
Opo.
Only government money payments lang po ang nagwi-withhold ng VAT. Yung private, hindi po kayo dapat nagwi-withhold ng VAT. Ang instance lang na magwi-withhold kayo ng VAT kung yung payer ninyo is a foreign corporation or a non-resident individual. So, i-withhold nyo yung final VAT na 12%. Pero kung domestic at saka citizen lang yung ordinary na VAT registration ninyo or VAT transactions with yung routine ninyo ng mga customers, pag private po kayo, hindi kayo required na mag-withhold ng VAT. Only government agencies are required to withhold the VAT, no? Yung sinasabi mo na final withholding tax on VAT na 5% sa mga government money payments po yan, sa mga contractors na may kontrata sila sa gobyerno. Pero yung individual na private na wala namang transaction sa gobyerno, hindi po sila na-withheld. No? So kung private withholding agent kayo, hindi po kayo dapat mag-withhold ng VAT. Only income.
Next po ma'am, galing kay Rebecca Noble.
Okay, so shout out Miss Rebecca Noble. Thank you for watching.
Sabi niya ma'am, good PM po ma'am. Namatay na po father ko 2004.
Okay.
At yung mother ko po buhay pa.
Okay.
At yung pong titulo ng parents ko ay sinanla ng father ko noong 1988. Pero sabi po na pinagsanlaan na wala daw niya.
Oh.
Sabi niya ma'am, kailangan po ba ng original title sa pagbayad ng estate tax ng father ko na patay na?
Yes po, kasi hindi tatanggapin. Why? Kasi yung property na babayaran mo ng estate tax is a registrable property. And the purpose na magbayad ka ng estate tax para transfer yung titulo. So ano ita-transfer mo kung yung nawala? Anong gagawin nyo? Reconstitute ninyo yung title, no? Punta kayo sa Register of Deeds, then gagawa kayo ng request doon for reconstitution. Although yan ay pinafile yan sa court, no, magbayad kayo sa restitution ng title, no? So kailangan niya ng lawyer, dumaan kayo sa PAW, no, para makatipid kayo. But kailangan po talaga ang title once na nagbayad kayo ng estate tax, no? Yun ang pinakamatagal actually sa pagbabayad ng estate tax, yung documentation. Kasi once na may kulang kayo na documents, hindi kayo kukumputan at hindi kayo makakabayad. Diyan tumatagal ang estate tax clearance sa mga dokumento na kulang.
Next na question po ang galing kay Ma'am Telma Sansales.
Okay.
Sa professional fee, if the employer did not withhold tax and the consultant receipt was 100% of the fee, ano po effect both sa employer and sa consultant?
Okay. Sa consultant, i-declare mo 100%, no? So, you cannot claim creditable withholding tax. Yung mangyayari, ang effect noon doon sa client, mape-penalize siya. Why? Kasi hindi siya nag-withhold. Siya kasi ang designated na withholding agent. So, hindi kasalanan yun ng consultant na hindi siya nag-withhold. Ang may kasalanan doon, yung nagbayad. Kasi siya yung designated withholding agent. Bago niya binayad yung professional fee, dapat nag-withhold na siya, nilimit niya sa BAR, at nagbigay siya ng certificate na 2307 doon sa professional. So, in that case, ang effect, ang professional dapat i-declare niya yun 100% sa income tax niya, and then bayaran niya yung tax due without the benefit of the creditable withholding tax na dapat na withhold. So, siya ang mape-penalize dyan, yung kliyente na hindi nag-withhold. No? So, siya. At mahirapan siya na i-claim niya yun na expense kasi sisingilin siya, ipe-penalty pa siya. Okay.
Next question ma'am kay Ma'am Irish Nario.
Okay.
Ma'am, what is vanishing deduction? Give an example.
Okay. Ang vanishing deduction po sa estate tax, ito yung first year, halimbawa, namatay. Bakit vanishing? Kasi, halimbawa, on the first year, namatay yung may-ari ng property, no? So, definitely, ang property, halimbawa, namatay ngayon yung may-ari. Yung property na yan, hindi na yan kanya. Kanino na yan? Doon sa beneficiary niya. Doon sa mga anak, sa asawa, o sa designated na beneficiary, or sa legal heirs niya. Doon na yun. Yun na yung may-ari, no? So, halimbawa, yung namatay is January 2020. Yung beneficiary niya, namatay na naman ng September 2020. So, during the year. So, that same property na minana nung namatay ng September, Noong January, nung namatay yung decedent na isa, so during the year namatay, definitely, pagdating ng September, kung sino na naman yung beneficiary nung year na yun na namatay, sila na naman ngayon ang rightful owner, no? Kasi dapat i-transmit na niya kaagad yung property by operation of law, hindi na yung namatay ang owner, yun na yung beneficiary. So in that case, ang vanishing deduction, during the year namatay ang decedent, namatay din yung beneficiary, 100% deduction. So ibig sabihin, i-transfer ng namatay ng September yung namana niya nung January doon sa tagapagmana niya nung September, walang babayaran, no? Bakit? Kasi kababayad lang nung transfer tax during the year. So halimbawa naman, hindi siya namatay ng September 2020, namatay ng 2021, no? So magsi-second year na. Ang deduction na naman doon is 80%, no? So 20% lang nung value ng property, yun ang babayaran na estate tax. Kung hindi naman siya namatay, halimbawa nung second year, doon sa third year, no? So magkano naman ang vanishing deduction? 40% na, no? So 40% lang yung value ng property na babayaran niya. And so on. Pagdating ng third year, 60%. Pagdating ng fourth year, 80%, no? Or pagdating ng fourth year, 80%. Pagdating ng fifth year, no? Up to fifth year kasi, no? So sa fifth year pala, 20% na lang yung babayaran niya. Sa fourth year, 80%. Sa yung deduction niya. Sa third year, 60%. Sa second year, 40%. Sa first year, 100% pa yung exemption niya, no? Kasi habang tumatagal, nawawala yung deduction. Ibig sabihin, vanishing deduction, no? So, since 5 years lang, may vanishing deductions ka. Pagdating ng 6 years, wala na deduction. Kung halimbawa, after 6 years, namatay yung beneficiary, bayaran mo na in full. Wala ka ng deductions na ma-avail, no? So, yun po yung ibig sabihin ng vanishing deductions. Na for the first 5 years, may mga deductions ng ang estate tax na ibibigay kung namatay ulit yung beneficiary during that period, no? Pero kung hindi, pagdating ng 6th year, 100% lang po nila na babayaran. Yan po yung vanishing deductions. Pero alam nyo, during my entire stay sa BIR for 31 years, wala akong na-compute na nag-avail ng estate tax, ng vanishing deductions. So, wala. Siguro hindi namatay during the 5 years yung ibang beneficiary. No?
Wala na pong tanong.
Wala na? Okay. Okay, so tuloy tayo. Anong oras na, Hari?
8:57.
Okay. So, before we proceed, no, break lang muna po ng 5 minutes. CCR lang. Sige. Before we proceed, let's go muna to question and answers, no? So I think may question pa. Sige.
Ako, ma'am. Question po galing kay Sir Romeo Pelayo.
Okay.
Ako, ma'am, pag namatay ang isa sa mga beneficiaries, for example, mother and son, tapos
Okay.
namatay ang mother,
Okay.
need ba talaga ilipat sa son via estate tax bago malipat ang buyer ang house?
Sandali lang ha. Ulitin mo. Ulitin mo yung question.
Pag namatay ang isa sa mga beneficiaries, for example, mother and son, tapos namatay ang mother, need ba talaga ilipat sa son via estate tax bago malipat ang buyer ang house?
Kailan po? Kasi by operation of law, di ba sabi ko, namatay ngayon yung may-ari. Namatay ng alas 6. 6:01, hindi na siya yung may-ari. Yun na yung beneficiary. So, since hindi na siya yung may-ari, by operation of law, hindi mo man siya i-transfer physically yung title, pero pag pina-transfer mo na siya dahil binenta halimbawa yung lot, sabay mo nang bayaran yung estate tax at saka yung capital gains, no? Hindi na kailangan na i-transfer mo pa yung title sa pangalan ng son. No. I-present mo lang yung death certificate na patay na yung mother at saka yung deed of sale. Sabay na yan kukumputin ng BIR. Hindi mo na isa-isahin na transaction. Isang transaction na lang po yan.
Yun lang po, ma'am.
Okay. Sige. Ang dami talagang problema ng what we call this estate, no? Actually para sa akin sa lahat ng tax, ang pinaka mahirap i-process yung estate tax because of the documentation requirement, no? Yung sunod is VAT, no? So pangatlo lang yung income. Para sa akin yan sa ranking ko. Ang pinaka mahirap talaga estate tax. No? Okay. So let us go back to the explanations, no? Ito yung mga about withholding tax on compensation, no? Statutory minimum wage, ito yung hindi subject to withholding, no? Statutory minimum wage or SMW shall refer to the rate fixed by the regional tripartite wage and productivity board RTWPB as defined by the Bureau of Labor and Employment Statistics, BLES of the Department of Labor and Employment or DOLE. So the RTWPB of its region shall determine the wage rates in the different regions based on established criteria and shall be the basis of exemption from income tax for his purpose. So bawat region, iba-iba po yung minimum wage, no? The NWPC shall officially submit a matrix of wage order by region and any changes thereof within 10 days after its effectivity to the Assistant Commissioner Collection Service for circularization in the BIR, no? So yun po yung coordination ng labor at saka ng commissioner. Aside from the statutory minimum wage or SMW, the holiday pay. So ito yung kasama sa minimum wage noon. Hindi lang yung salary niya ang exempt, kasama pa rin yung holiday pay, overtime pay, night shift differential, and hazard pay. So yung apat na yan, pagka yan ay na-earn ng isang minimum wage earners, kasama pa rin yan na hindi subject to withholding tax on compensation. For purposes of these regulations, hazard pay shall mean the amount paid by the employer to the minimum wage earners who were actually assigned to danger or strife-torn areas, disease-infested places. Di ko alam kung may nagbayad ng hazard pay ngayon sa mga empleyado dahil sa COVID, no? Or in distressed or isolated stations and camps which expose them to great danger or contagion or peril to life, no? Pero alam ko yung mga na-COVID naman, pag na-hospital, no, hindi na sila nagbabayad kasi sagot ng PhilHealth. So any hazard paid to MW is which does not satisfy the above criteria is deemed subject to income tax and consequently withholding tax on the said hazard pay. Okay. So in the case of hazardous employment, the employer shall indicate in the alphabetical list of employees the minimum wage earners who receive the hazard pay, the period of the employment, the amount of hazard pay, and the justification for such payment as certified by the concerned DOLE or allied agency. So ito yung requirements sa pagbayad ng sa pagbigay ng exemption ng hazard pay, no? So, which certification is part of the attachment in the filing of the Annual Information Return or BIR Form 1604C. In the case of employees under the public sector, the document to be attached is the Department of Budget and Management circular related to such payment of hazard pay, no? Kasi regulated din naman sa government yung hazard pay. Additional compensation such as commission, honoraria, friends benefits, benefits in excess of the allowable statutory amount of 90,000, yun yung 13-month pay, taxable allowances and other taxable income given to an minimum wage earners by the same employer other than those which are expressly exempt from income tax shall be subject to withholding tax using the withholding tax table, no? So pagka sumobra na yung ibang mga bayad sa kanya, cease to be the in excess na doon sa mga payment na exempt, then magiging taxable na po. Likewise, minimum wage earners receiving other income from other sources in addition to compensation income, such as income from other concurrent employers, from the conduct of trade or business or practice of profession, except income subject to final tax, are subject to income tax only to the extent of income other than the statutory minimum wage, no? So holiday pay, overtime pay, night shift differential pay, and hazard pay earned during the taxable year. So yung salary na minimum, the subject. Kasama na yung holiday pay, overtime pay, night shift differential, and then the hazard pay. Ano naman yung mga income ng minimum wage earners na magiging taxable? Yun yung additional compensation niya na commission, no, honoraria, friends benefits, yung excess doon sa 90,000 na not taxable na 13-month pay, no, and other taxable income. Kung ano pa yung mga na-receive niya na taxable income, then magiging taxable yun. Pero hindi kasama yung minimum wage niya, hazard pay, night shift differential, overtime pay, ano pa, 4 yun eh, no? So, kung meron pa siyang mga other income, no, halimbawa sa business, then, or income subject to final tax, then, magiging taxable din po yun, no? So, ano lang yung mga hindi taxable? The minimum wage niya, holiday pay, overtime pay, night shift differential, hazard pay. So, yung 5 na yan. Any income subject to income tax may be subject to withholding tax. However, income exempt from income tax is consequently exempt from withholding tax, no? So, basta subject sa income tax, subject din sa withholding. Pero kung exempt sa income tax, exempt din sa withholding. Why? Kasi withholding tax, yung withholding is just a mode of collecting an income tax, no? Ang withholding tax, hindi yan talagang tax na national taxes na kinokollect, no? Income tax po yan. Depende kung anong klaseng tax yung withhold mo. So, yung withholding is only a mode of collection, no? So, either na kinokolekta mo sa withholding, in case of private corporations, ito yung withholding tax on income. Pagka government money payments naman, kasama na wini-withhold doon yung business tax, no? So, income and business tax, pwedeng percentage tax, and then the value-added tax. Any diminution, reduction of wages, no, for purposes of exemption from income tax shall constitute misrepresentation and therefore shall result to the automatic disallowance of expense, no? Compensation and benefits account on the part of the employer. Ito, dinagdag na to under the train law. Ha? The offenders may be criminally prosecuted under existing laws. No? Kasi anong ginawa ng iba? Pagdating na ng statutory minimum wage earners, alam nyo, lahat ng empleyado, kahit hindi minimum wage earners, naging minimum wage earners bigla. No? Saan napunta yung iba nilang mga income? Nilagay sa de minimis benefits, nilagay sa kung ano-ano ng mga exempt na income, no? Just to avoid the payment of withholding tax. Kaya nga sabi ko doon sa mga in charge, no? Especially the accounting, sabi ko, pumayag kayo na ilagay kayo sa minimum wage earners dahil lang to avoid the payment of the withholding tax. Pero, ang hindi nyo nakita, pati yung mga benefits nyo nawala. Bakit? Bakit nawala? Pero yung retirement mo doon na ibabase sa hindi nila iniisip yun, no? Yung retirement nyo, yung SSS remittance nyo, binase na doon sa minimum wage, no? So, yun yung sinabi ko sa mga accountants noon, yung sa mga HR na in charge. So, sabi ko, nasa sa inyo yan, na bakit kayo pumayag, just to avoid the payment of taxes. Ang dami nyo naman sinakripisyo, no? Anong isa doon? Yung SSS remittance nyo, yung mga benefits nyo, ano nyo yun, na sakripisyo nyo. Why? Pero mo lahat ng benepisyo mo, ibabase ngayon doon sa minimum wage na napakaliit. No? Kasi pumapayag ang empleyado para lang daw iwasan yung payment of withholding tax. No? So, compensation during the year not exceeding 250,000 pesos. Of course, hindi siya subject to tax. No? Illustration 4. Ms. Alona is employed in CSO Corporation. She received the statutory minimum wage for 2018 in the total amount of 175,000 inclusive of the 13th month pay. No? So 175, nandun na yung 13th month pay. So in the same year, she also received overtime pay of 40,000 and night shift differential of 25,000. She also received commission income from the same employer of 20,000 and thus total income received amounted to 260,000. So nag-exceed na siya ng 10,000 over the exempt na 250,000. Computation. The employer of Ms. Alona shall determine the nature of income payments, the amount to be subjected to income tax, withholding tax shall be computed as follows. No? Total income received, 260,000. Less income exempt from tax. Ano yung income exempt from tax? By law, no? Statutory. Basic statutory minimum wage, 175,000. Overtime pay, 40,000. Night shift differential, 25,000. Total exempt income as minimum wage earners, 240,000. Magkano yung taxable income niya na commission? 20,000. So, tax due, not over 250,000 times 0% is 0. So, since 20,000 lang yung taxable income niya, ibawas mo yun doon, i-apply mo yung tax rate ngayon, so the first 250,000 is 0. So, itong 20,000, pasok pa rin siya doon sa 0 rate. No? So, walang tax due si Ms. Alona. No? So, taxpayer income of statutory minimum wage, overtime pay, and night shift differential pay are expressly exempt from income tax under the law. Sino ang nag-exempt yan? Yung batas na. No? And consequently from withholding tax. So, commission income from the same employer is taxable. However, under the graduated income tax rate, since it is less than 250,000, then there was no tax due. No? Illustration number 5. Ms. Cyril is employed in MAFD Corporation and is always a part-time real estate agent for a real estate broker. No? So, in addition to the SMW of 180,000 she received from her employer, she likewise received 75,000 as commission from her real estate dealing for the year 2018. No? Computation. The amount subject to income tax and withholding tax shall be computed depending on the income tax regime selected by Ms. Cyril. Since she is qualified to avail of such option, income from business practice or profession does not exceed 3 million, and such option was reflected in the payer's sworn declaration given by the taxpayer to the payer withholding tax agent, real estate broker as follows. So number 1, under the graduated income tax IT regime, total income received is 255,000. Less income exempt from income tax, kasi statutory minimum wage, 180,000. Taxable income as commission is 75,000. Tax due, 0. No? Kasi hindi siya umabot ng 250,000. Under the 8% income tax regime, so example, si Ms. Cyril opted to choose the 8% option rate. No? So total income received is 255,000, less income exempt from income tax, the statutory minimum wage, 180,000, taxable income commission, 75,000, tax due, magkano na? 75,000 times 8% is 6,000, no? Taxpayer income as minimum wage earner does not exceed 250,000, hence not subject to withholding tax. Since taxpayer is a mixed income earner and has received income from other sources, in addition to her compensation income, the commission received during the taxable year is subject to income tax and consequently to withholding tax. No? If Ms. Cyril selected the graduated income tax regime, her commission income is subject to income tax at 0% since it did not exceed 250,000, and she is also subject to business tax. However, if she selected the 8% income tax regime, she is liable for income tax amounting to 6,000, but this is in lieu of the graduated income tax and percentage tax under Section 116 of the Tax Code as amended. Kasi yung binayad mo na 8%, kasama na dyan yung percentage tax, no? 5% for income yan at saka 3% for percentage tax, no? Section 7, no? Amended Section 2.79, income tax collected at source on compensation income. No? A, requirement of withholding. Every employer must withhold from compensation paid an amount computed in accordance with these regulations, whether the employee is a citizen or an alien. So, except non-resident alien not engaged in trade or business. No? So, ito yung collected at source. Provided that no withholding of tax shall be required on the statutory minimum wage, including holiday pay, overtime pay, night shift differential, and hazard pay of minimum wage earners in the private or public sectors as defined in these regulations. Provided further, no, that an employee who receives additional compensation such as commissions, honoraria, friends benefits, benefits in excess of the allowable statutory amount of 90,000 taxable allowances and other taxable income other than the statutory minimum wage, holiday pay, overtime pay, hazard pay, and night shift differential pay shall be taxable only on such additional compensation received. No? So letter B, computation of withholding tax on compensation or income in general. The procedure prescribed below shall govern the computation of withholding tax on the taxable compensation income of the employees. No? So provided, however, the taxable friends benefits received the employees other than rank and file as defined in the Labor Code of the Philippines as amended shall be subject to friends benefits tax pursuant to Section 33 of the Tax Code as amended. No? So use of withholding tax tables. In general, every employer making payment of compensation shall deduct and withhold from such compensation a tax determined in accordance with the prescribed withholding tax table annexed on these regulations for compensation paid from January 1 to 2018 until December 31, 2022, published under RMC 1-2018, January 4, 2018, and Annex E for compensation paid starting January 1, 2023. Why? Kasi may nagbago doon na rate, no? If the compensation is paid other than daily, weekly, semi-monthly, or monthly, the tax to be withheld shall be computed as follows. A. Annually. Use annualized computation referred to in section 2.79 of this regulation. So, mayroon po tayong video, the annualized computation of the withholding tax, no? Letter B is quarterly and semi-annually. Divide the compensation by 3 or 6 respectively, no? Kung quarterly, divide by 3 or 6 respectively, no? So to determine the average monthly compensation, use the monthly withholding tax table to compute the tax, and the tax so computed shall be multiplied by 3 or 6 accordingly. 6 kung semi-annually, no? And 3 sa quarterly. Kasi 3 buwan yun. Pag semi-annual, 6 months, no? Kaya multiply by 6. Pag semi-annual, and multiply by 3 pagka quarterly. Components of withholding tax table. The column 1 pertains to the following details: the payroll period, the compensation range, the prescribed withholding tax, no? Titingnan natin yan ulit on the annex, no? So ngayon, information pa lang po yung sinasabi ko. Letter B, columns 2 to 7 show the tax due for each of the compensation range identified. Steps 3, determine the amount of the tax to be withheld, no? So how are you going to withhold? We're talking about the compensation income, no? Withholding on compensation. Step 1, determine the total monetary and non-monetary compensation paid to an employee for the payroll period, no? So monthly, semi-monthly, weekly, or daily, as the case may be, no? So, excluding non-taxable benefits and mandatory contributions. So, anong i-deduct mo? Yung non-taxable benefits, kanibawa, yung 90,000 na 13th month. Ano yung mga mandatory contribution? Yung mga SSS, no, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig. So, mandatory contribution yan. Tanggalin mo din yan. So, classify taxable compensation into regular and supplementary compensation. Regular compensation include basic salary, fixed allowances for representation, transportation, and other allowances paid to an employee per payroll period, no? Supplementary compensation includes payment to an employee in addition to the regular compensation, such as commission, overtime pay, taxable retirement, taxable bonus, and other taxable benefits with or without regard to a payroll period. Representation and transportation allowances or RATA granted to the public officers and employees under the General Appropriation Act and the Personal Economic Relief and Allowance. Ito yung pera, no? RATA and pera, which essentially constitute reimbursement for expenses incurred in the performance of government personnel's official duties, shall not be subject to income tax and consequently to withholding tax, no? So yung pera at saka rata hindi subject to withholding tax kasi reimbursement lang yan of expenses ng mga officials. Step 2, use the appropriate table in Annex D for compensation paid from January 1, 2018 to December 31, 2022, or Annex E, no? So, for compensation paid from January 1, 2023 onwards, and select the applicable payroll period. So, yan yung step by step. Step 3, determine the compensation range of the employee by taking into account only the total amount of taxable regular compensation income and apply the applicable tax rates prescribed thereon, no? So, step 4, compute the withholding tax due by adding the tax predetermined in the compensation range as indicated on the column used and the rate of tax in the excess of the total compensation over the minimum of the compensation range. Number 4, sample computation on the use of the withholding tax table. So ito na. The following are sample computation of withholding tax and compensation using the prescribed withholding tax tables. Illustration 6. Mr. Joe, an employee of MCUD Inc., is receiving daily compensation in the amount of 2,500 net of mandatory contributions. So, computation. By using the daily withholding tax table, the withholding tax beginning January 2018 is computed by referring to compensation range under column 4, which use a predetermined tax of 356.16, no? On 2,192 plus 30% of the excess of compensation range. So minimum amounting to 308. So 2,500 minus 2,192, no? So equals 308 multiplied by the tax rate of 30%, which is 9240. As such, the withholding tax to be withheld by the employer shall be 448.56, no? So total taxable compensation 2,500 less compensation range minimum 2,192. The excess is 308. So withholding tax shall be computed as follows. No? Predetermined tax on 2,192 is 356 and tax on the excess 308 times 30% is 9240, so that the total daily withholding tax is 448.56. May question?
Meron po ma'am.
Oh, sige.
Galing po kay Rebecca Noble.
Okay, so shout out Ms. Rebecca Noble. Thank you for watching.
Sabi niya ma'am, pwede po bang ako na lang magbayad ng estate tax? Kasi po walang pakialam yung dalawa kong kapatid sa mga bayarin sa taxes kahit wala pong extrajudicial settlement.
Hindi po tatanggapin pag walang extrajudicial settlement po. Kasi pagdating mo sa BAR, hanapin yung title mo, and then the extrajudicial settlement should be signed by lahat ng beneficiaries, no? So hindi nila tatanggapin na magbayad ka, magpa-compute ka, and then wala yung extrajudicial, no? Kasi dokumento yan na panghahawakan din ng Register of Deeds the moment na yung title i-transfer na nila, no? So wala silang basis kung kanino nila i-transfer pag walang extrajudicial settlement. So dapat po talaga may extrajudicial settlement, no? That is the documentary requirements for the estate tax. Kung walang judicial, ibig sabihin kung walang hindi dumaan sa korte, so judicial settlement naman ang tawag doon, may court order yon. Pero pag wala, pwede na diretso sa BAR using the extrajudicial settlement.
Sabi po ni Mark Philip Ursua,
Okay.
naglabas po ang BAR na bagong revenue regulation exemption sa hazard pay ng frontliners.
Okay, so very good.
Clarify ito.
Very good. Very good po. Magandang news yan, no? Kasi may hazard talaga ang itong COVID, no? Kasi hazardous, di ba? Marami na rin namamatay sa COVID. Kaya maganda yung hazard, ni-recognize nila na talagang hazardous po yung mga frontliners, no? Thank you for that information. Okay?
Naman ma'am, galing kay Robilin Jamyo.
Okay. So shout out Miss Robilin. Thank you for watching.
Sabi niya ma'am, good evening. Nag-try po ako gumamit ng EBIR form.
Okay.
Only to find out nung nakapag-print na ako ng form, validated na, wala pong RDO code and month nung sa calendar year na box. May penalty po ba ito?
Paano yun? Nasubmit siya? Ikaw, sagutin mo, Hari.
O, nag-validate na daw siya ma'am. Pero alam ko naman hindi yung pwede ma-validate kung hindi niya lalagyan.
Yes, kulang. So,
Baka yun sa pag-print lang ma'am, nag-error.
baka sa pag-print, no? Yung tanong mo kung may penalty ba?
Opo daw.
Kasi error yan ng error yan ng system.
Baka sa system yun.
Oh, baka sa system error yon. So,
Mag-update na lang siya ma'am naman. Baka lumay ka.
okay. So, mag-update na lang kayo. So, anong gagawin? Mag-amend. Mag-fill up siya ulit.
Opo ma'am.
No? So, mag-fill up po kayo ulit para malaman nyo. Kasi kung may penalty siya, yung system mismo ang nagko-compute ng penalty. But in that case, nag-file na no?
Kasi pag mag-validate ka ma'am, hindi siya mag-validate kapag kulang yung information na nilagay.
Yes, no? So, baka error po yan ng ano. So, kung error naman yan ng system, na-late na kayo. So, better still, anong gagawin niya doon sa case na yan? Punta na siya sa BIR mismo. Kasi yung may mga RDC, yung sa Revenue Data Center natin, may mga access po yan sila. Makikita nila doon kung nag-validate o hindi. No? In case na hindi talaga siya na-validate, then you have to file. Pero late na yun, may penalty na. Pero kung nag-validate naman doon at sa printing lang nagkamali, din wala po kayong penalty.
Sabi niyo mang validate eh.
So kung nag-validate yan, wala po kayong penalty.
Na kaya ba?
Yun na nga eh, no? Baka na-print lang, hindi pa na-submit, no? So see to it na pag nag-fill up kayo ng BIR form, sinubmit nyo at meron kayong confirmation, no? Pinaka-importante talaga yung confirmation para masabi ninyo na nag-validate siya kasi yung BIR hanapan niya kayo ng confirmation receipt. Ibig sabihin kung walang confirmation receipt, hindi yun nakarating sa BIR, no? So see to it na yung pag-submit mo, hinihintay mo na ngayon yung confirmation receipt. Without that, hindi po kayo nakapag-file kung walang confirmation receipt. Okay, meron pa?
Meron pa po ma'am, galing kay
Okay.
Charles Serrato.
Okay, so shout out Charles. Good evening.
Sabi niya ma'am, good evening po. Regarding sa estate taxing,
Okay.
sa estate tax din po. The decedent left several land.
Okay.
Is it possible for the heirs to transfer the titles one by one?
Pwede, mag-request kayo at saka bibigyan nyo ng reason yung BIR kung bakit i-one by one nyo lang. So siguro, one is hindi pa kaya ng budget. So pwede po, basta mag-request kayo. Kasi dati, hindi yan ina-allow, no? Pero ngayon, pwede yung partial, no? Yung partial na pag-file ng estate tax. Huh?
Karugtong pa ma'am, sabi niya ma'am, a friend of mine said that all of the title are transferred to the other heirs. Sa kanila na lang daw po yung natitirang hindi nalipat. Is it possible?
Pwede. Pwede po. Kasi, ano ba yung nakalagay doon sa extrajudicial? Baka gumawa sila ng extrajudicial na kanila lang. Kasi kung sa extrajudicial nila, isinama nila yung sa inyo, then hindi yun i-allow na partial. No? Pero siguro gumawa sila ng extrajudicial settlement na yung kanilang namana lang, yung nakalagay doon. So, in-entertain po sila ng BIR at saka ng Register of Deeds. That's why na transfer nila yung kanilang title. Pwede po.
Next question ma'am kay Ma'am Ethel Santos.
Okay, so shout out Miss Ethel Santos.
Sabi niya,
Thank
ma'am,
you for watching.
Sabi niya ma'am, regarding documentary stamp tax of rental, if expired na ang contract of lease, then lessor did not give another contract, paano po documentary stamp tax?
Kayo ang affected dyan. Why? Because yung documentation nyo, kulang na. Halimbawa, documentation nyo for the current year, wala na. No? So, dapat nung execute kayo ulit ng lease contract. No? So, in that case, wala kayong babayan na doc stamp kasi walang dokumento. But yung kanino detrimental yung ganyang klase ng sitwasyon, detrimental yan doon sa lessee, doon sa umuupa, hindi doon sa nagpaupa. Advantage yun nung nagpaupa kasi hindi niya i-declare yung income.
Next ma'am, galing kay Ted.
Okay, shout out Ted.
Sabi niya ma'am, ano-ano daw mga kailangan na forms sa bigasan business?
Bigasan. Ang bigas is exempt from business tax, no? Percentage at saka VAT. Subject lang po siya sa income tax. So, ang form na gagamitin mo, yung 1701Q sa quarterly na income tax at saka yung 1701 pagdating na sa annual na income tax. Kung ikaw naman ay depende sa tax types na in-apply mo sa BIR, kung may mga empleyado ka naman, then may withholding tax on compensation ka, magpa-file ka rin ng 1601C na monthly, no? Pag meron ka na naman na rental, halimbawa, nagre-rent ka sa space mo, so magbabayad ka ng expanded withholding tax. So, anong kailangan mo dyan? The 1601E naman, yung monthly na expanded withholding tax na payment. No? 06, ano yun? 0619 na ngayon, no? E? Okay. Tsaka may EQ pa yan, yung sa quarterly, no? So, yun ang mga kailangan mo na form. Depende sa registration mo sa BIR, no? Kasi yan, imbawa, kahit na sinabi ko na ito yung withholding, wala ka namang ganyang klaseng tax types, then you need not file. Kaya, tingnan mo yung certificate of registration mo sa BIR at nakalagay doon. Ngayon, sa mga COR kasi ngayon, nandiyon doon na nakalagay kung anong klaseng mga forms yung ipa-file mo.
Meron pang question, ma'am.
Anong oras na?
9:36.
Okay.
So,
So,
shoutout lang ma'am kay Ma'am Lilia po na nanonood.
sino?
Ma'am Lilia Fernando.
Ito talaga si Miss Lilia.
Kaya pa daw pa siya from the start naman.
Oh, talaga. So, shout out Miss Lilia, no? Na, anuan mo rin kami, na timing mo rin kami dito sa aming live streaming, no? Actually, alam nyo, itong ginagawa natin na live streaming, this is in response to what is the new normal, no? Kasi, nakakalungkot pag lumabas ka, wala ka ng tao makita, skeleton force yung mga nasa government agencies. So, anong gagawin mo? Wala ka na talagang gagawin na hindi ka, kumbaga sa hindi ka mag-ride on sa ano yung new normal. Parang madidepress ka eh. And I don't want that to happen to me, no? Sabi ko, ano ba itong new normal? So, ito na yun eh. So, kahit minsan ayaw kong gawin na nagsasalita ako sa harap ng camera, talagang kailangan mong gawin because this is the new normal. Tsaka, may-maintain po tayo ng iba pa mga YouTube channel, no? Sa, yun yung, expression of myself, no? Doon ko na-express yung sarili ko sa mga YouTube channels na yan. At sabi ko naman sa sarili ko, that is an alternative na yung iba, kung ano-ano na lang nakikita sa YouTube, sabi ko, our channel would be an alternative naman dun sa ibang channel na mga kalokohan lang yung ginagawa, pero trending pa sila, no? So, pero okay lang sa atin yun. Dahil yung sa atin naman, nag-YouTube channel tayo for learnings, no? Para may matutunan. And then as alternative to those na educational naman. Okay, so thank you for watching, Miss Lilia. No? Okay, so tuloy tayo sa withholding. No? So illustration number 7. Miss Heidi, an employee of GAL Corporation, is receiving weekly compensation in the amount of 9,500 net of mandatory contributions. No? Ay, shout out ko lang pala kay Miss Lilia. Approve na yung transfer na pala doon sa RDO 21 yung isang pinapatransfer natin from RDO 39. No? So, computation. By using the weekly withholding tax table, the withholding tax beginning January 2018 is computed by referring to compensation range under column 3, which shows a predetermined tax of 576.92 on 7,692. Ito, weekly withholding tax table naman to. So, ibig sabihin, yung salary is given every week. No? So, magkano ngayon yung withholding? So, plus 25% of the excess of compensation range, the minimum amounting to 1,808. 9,500 minus 7,692, which is 452. No? So, at such, the withholding tax to be withheld by the employer shall be 1,028.92. Okay. So, computation. Total taxable compensation is 9,500, less compensation range, the minimum 7,692, excess 1,808. No? So, withholding tax shall be computed as follows. Predetermined tax on 7,692 is 576.92. No? So, add the tax on excess of 1,808 times 25%, which is 452. So the total weekly withholding tax is 1,028.92. So yun po yung paano tayo nag-compute ng withholding tax on a weekly basis using the withholding tax table. Okay. So next illustration, may question pa?
Meron ma'am.
Okay, sige.
Galing po ulit kay Sir Charles Serrato.
Okay.
Sabi niya, regarding po sa 3 million VAT threshold, if
Okay.
a VAT-exempt entity has more than 3 million sales, are they required to be registered as VAT?
Una-una, bakit sila exempt? Exempt ba talaga sila na by law? So, kasi kung by law, halimbawa, yung exempt sa VAT under yung ano ba yun, yung mga goods and services not subject to value-added tax, yung halimbawa, sale of agricultural products, ito yung mga iba't ibang klaseng exempted talaga sa VAT, regardless of the amount, no? Even if in-exist sila ng 3 million, exempt pa rin sila. Kagaya halimbawa ng common carriers tax, yung 3% na common carriers tax, exempted talaga yan sa VAT kahit na aabot pa yan ng 3 million and above, yung sales nila hindi talaga sila masasabi sa VAT. Just like sale ng bigas, no, agricultural products, kahit aabot yan ng 3 million, exempt pa rin. So, pero kung doon na siya sa regular at umabot na siya ng 3 million, ang sales niya magiging batable na siya, no? Ano yung mga batable na sales? Yung sale of goods, sale of services na expressly subject to value-added tax. Hindi siya exempted under the law. So, pag nag-exist na siya ng 3 million, subject na siya sa VAT. Below 3 million, ang threshold, then percentage tax. Yun lang siya na 3%. So, depending on the exemption na kiniklaim ng taxpayer. No? Kagaya halimbawa itong mga PESA registered enterprises, talagang hindi yan sila nagbabayad ng value-added tax. Oh. May question ba? Okay, so tuloy po tayo, no? Illustration number 8 na po tayo ngayon. So illustration 8, Ms. Rose, an employee of GMLH company, is receiving a semi-monthly compensation in the amount of 15,500. Net of mandatory contributions. Ibig sabihin ng net of mandatory contributions, deducted na yung mandatory contributions. No? So, computation. By using the semi-monthly, ito semi-monthly, kanina weekly. Yung una, na example natin is daily. No? So, computation. By using the semi-monthly withholding tax table, the withholding tax beginning January 2018 is computed by referring to compensation range under column 2. No? So we choose a predetermined tax of 0 on 10,417 plus 20% of the excess of compensation range. So minimum amounting to 5,083. No? So 15,500 minus 10,417, no, equals 5,083, which is 1,016.60, no? Yun yung 20%. As such, the withholding tax to be withheld by the employer shall be 1,016.60, no? So, paano siya kinocompute? Total taxable compensation na 15,500 less compensation range na minimum 10,417 using itong compensation range na minimum galing to sa withholding tax table, no? So 10,417 excess is 5,083. So the 5,083 is multiplied by the tax rate in the withholding tax table also 20%. So 1,016.60. Yun yung total semi-monthly or ito yung kinsena na sinasabi nila, no? Total semi-monthly withholding tax, no? Ito yung every 2 weeks, no? Na withholding. No? Next, illustration 9. Ms. Lin, an employee of MAG Corporation, is receiving regular monthly compensation in the amount of 165,000. net of mandatory contributions with supplemental compensation in the amount of 5,000 for the month, no? So, paano siya kino-compute? Computation. By using the monthly withholding tax table, the withholding tax beginning January 2018 is computed by referring to compensation range under column 4, which shows a predetermined tax of 10,833.33 on 66,667 plus 30% of the excess of compensation range or minimum amounting to 103,833. So, paano yan na-compute? 165,000 less 66,667 plus 5,000, which is 30,999.90. So, as such, the withholding tax to be withheld by the employee shall be 43,659.89. Yan na yung monthly, yung monthly. So, how much is the taxable compensation niya? 165,000. The compensation range using the withholding tax table, 66,667, no? So, the excess is 98,333. Add supplemental compensation kasi meron pa siyang supplemental compensation, which is 5,000. So, the total is 103,333, no? So, withholding tax shall be computed as follows. On 66,667, 10,833 po yung withholding. On excess, 165,000 minus 66,667 plus the supplemental compensation of 5,000. So, multiply that by 30%, the tax is 30,999.90. So, total monthly withholding tax, 41,833.23. So, magkano na lang yung take-home pay niya? 165,000 minus 41,833. 123, no? Something. So, yun po yung sinasabi ko sa mga income earners na sa ating sweldo, sa ating kita, may tax liyan po talaga ang gobyerno. So, do not think na na-receive mo or yun yung income mo for the month. Sa iyo lahat yan. Isipin mo, may percentage diyan ang gobyerno. Kaya try to look at this. Akala mo, ang laki ng sweldo mo, 165,000. Pero try to look at the withholding tax, 41,000. So magkano lang dapat yung take home mo? 120 plus lang, no? 123. Something. So, huwag mong isipin na sa iyo lahat yan. Kasi pag inisip mo sa iyo lahat, hindi ka na magbabayad ng tax, then later on, magka-problema ka pagka nagkaroon ka ng assessment, no? So, use of exceptional computation, cumulative average method. Ito yung example naman kung exceptional computation naman yung gagamitin, no? Pero para sa akin, kung kayo yung nagko-compute, bakit nyo paggagamitin to? Meron namang computation na mas madali. But for the sake of discussion, i-discuss ko po to sa inyo, no? So, may question pa, Hari?
Meron po.
Okay. Sige.
Galing po kay Ma'am Ami Oclari.
Okay. So, shout out Miss Ami Oclarit, no? Thank you for watching.
Sabi niya, Ma'am, yung COR po, walang nakasulat na withholding tax for employees. Pero
So,
may employee po naman kami na dalawa. Kailangan po ba mag-update ng COR?
dalawa, minimum wage earners po ba sila? Kasi kung minimum wage earner, hindi naman kayo dapat mag-withhold, din wag na kayong magpalagay ng withholding tax. Kasi hindi naman kayo dapat nagpa-file, no? So kung dalawa lang, it might be na exempt, minimum wage earners din sila. So ang gagawin nyo na lang, mag-submit na lang kayo ng alpha list at the end of the year. Kasi yung monthly, wala po kayong babayaran na withholding tax. Especially kung exempt naman yung dalawang empleyado nyo. Kaya siguro hindi kayo nilagyan ng tax type na compensation sa COR. So, wag po kayo mag-file, no? Kasi ang mangyayari diyan, wala sa COR mo, pero nag-file ka ng monthly na compensation, yung computer dadagdagan kanya ng tax type. Kahit wala diyan sa COR mo, since nag-file ka, ika-capture yan ng computer. Magkakaroon ka ngayon ng tax type. So, mag-open case ka na hindi naman dapat. Kaya, wag na po kayo mag-file. ng compensation. Kung ano lang na tax type ang nandyan sa COR nyo, yun po ang ipafile natin.
Next question, ma'am, galing kay Sir Ted. Ma'am, sure daw po ba na exempted ang bigasan sa percentage tax?
Yes po. Agricultural product po yan. At saka tingnan nyo sa ano nyo ha, sa COR nyo sa BIR, meron ba percentage tax? Silipin mo. Oh? Kasi kung meron, patanggal mo. No? Kasi wala yung percentage. O baka meron yan kasi aside from the bigas, meron ka pang ibang binibenta. No? Baka may kasama kang grocery, may kasama kang ibang paninda dyan. Hindi lang purely bigas, kaya nilagyan ka ng percentage tax. Pero kung puro bigas lang talaga, agricultural product po yan, hindi po siya subject.
Wala na pong question.
Okay. Sige, anong oras na, Hari?
9:51.
So alanganin na tayo dito sa umpisa natin, no? Kasi mahaba pa to. Pwede. Tapusin natin yung use of exceptional computation. Kaso lang, hindi na tayo maka-illustrate, no? Kasi may illustration pa siya. Illustration 10, 11, and then illustration 12, no? So, ang haba. Ito nga actually yung pinakamahaba eh. No? So, sayang kung umpisa natin, hindi natin matapos. So, sa susunod natin na live streaming, doon po natin to i-discuss, no? Ito yung use of exceptional computation, which is the cumulative average method. So, lecture na lang po tayo sa yung mga clarification natin sa withholding at saka yung sa mga questions nyo, no? Especially doon sa estate tax, no? Yung sabi ko sa inyo na yung estate tax, yun ang pinakamahirap sa lahat ng tax na experience ko. That's why karamihan din ng mga examiners ayaw nila ng estate tax, no? So, kaya tingnan nyo, pagpunta ninyo sa BIR, iba yung makaharap nyo na examiner. Sabi niya, hanapin mo to, kulang tong dokumento mo, no? So, hanapin mo na yung isang dokumento, i-provide mo na. Pagbalik mo, ibang examiner na naman yung kaharap mo, ibang review na naman, iba na naman yung nakita. So, balik ka na naman ulit. No? Kaya napakatagal po. There are some na pa-follow up ng estate tax na sobrang pabalik-balik sila, no? Umaabot minsan ng 2 years, 3 years, no? Dahil lang sa dokumento, no? And addition po natin sa estate tax, under the train law, bumaba yung rate po natin ng estate tax, no? 6% na lang doon sa taxable estate. Hindi na siya kagaya nung dati na napakamahal. Ngayon, bumaba siya. Kaya, at saka, yung mga estate tax na, halimbawa, namatay yung decedent noong 2017, no? Na wala pa yung train law, meron pa rin po tayong estate tax amnesty hanggang ngayon, no? Hanggang next year yan. Pwede pa kayo mag-avail. Pero, yung mga lumapit sa akin, ano yung mga problema nila? Kulang po sila ng documentation, kaya hindi napaprocess. Yung iba walang title, yung iba walang deed of sale, walang deed of sale pa doon sa binilhan na, namatay na yung bumili, hindi pa nakapangalan doon sa namatay. Yung deed of sale na dapat na doon sa namatay, nawala pa, no? So in that case, sobrang hirap na hindi talaga malakad yung estate tax, no? So be sure na tayo mga buhay pa, pag meron tayong pinupundar na mga real estate, kumpletuhin, hanapin nyo na yung mga title. Why? Because ang real property po is a registrable property, no? So kahit sabihin mo na ikaw yung owner, pero wala ka namang dokumento, wala ka namang title na ipapakita, then hindi mo pa rin ma-prove na ikaw yung may-ari, no? And isa pa sa estate tax naman po, yung 2017 na namatay, yung 2 million na estate tax niya, required na mayroong audit certificate po ng Certified Public Accountant. Pagdating naman sa, halimbawa, namatay naman yung decedent noong 2018 to present, to 2020 ngayon, Ang required naman na magkaroon siya ng audit certificate is 5 million, no? So dapat 5 million yung gross estate, subject na din sa audit certificate ng CPA, no? So magkano yung singil ng CPA? Depende na yan sa gross ninyo, no? So, kasi sa akin, ang pinaka-minimum ko when it comes to audit certificate ng estate tax is 3,000. Pinaka-minimum po yan. But depende pa yan kung malaki yung gross estate. No? So, anong gagawin dyan ng CPA? Gagawa niya ng table of contents, gawa niya ng computations, no? Para pagdating nyo sa BAR, nandun na. Hindi na mahirapan yung examiner na nag-aanap pa ng mga dokumento para pabalik-balik pa kayo. So, isang isang review, isang lakad, no? Pero sa totoo lang, sobrang hirap talaga. Lalo na kung yung ibang mga heirs nasa abroad na, no? Pupunta pa kayo doon, papipirmahan sa kanila, and then hindi na ngayon yung tawag nila na iba na yung notaryo ngayon kung nasa abroad, no? May tawag na silang iba, no? So, yun, lalong magpapatagal yun sa estate, no? But since real property ang involved, kailangan natin gawin. Why? Because our interest is dependent also on the documents na ipaprocess natin. So, kailangan. Okay, so yun po yung sa estate tax natin. No? So, sa withholding tax naman natin, importante talaga na nagpa-file tayo, nagbabayad tayo ng withholding tax, at ang guide natin is our COR, our Certificate of Registration. So, kung wala yan sa Certificate of Registration natin, yung tax type na yan, hindi tayo magpa-file. But if you know na kailangan mo mag-file at wala dyan sa Certificate of Registration mo, you have to amend your Certificate of Registration. Anong gagawin mo? You fill up the Form 1905, dalhin mo yung original na Certificate of Registration nyo sa BAR, at sabihin mo magpapadagdag kayo ng tax type na compensation. Bakit? Kasi pagka halimbawa, meron na kayong compensation na dapat kayong mag-withhold, hindi kayo nag-withhold. At the time na magpa-file na kayo ngayon ng income tax return, yung salaries ng mga employees nyo, hindi nyo ma-claim. Why? Kasi ipipenalize kayo. So, pwede ninyong i-claim, but you will pay the penalty of non-withholding. No? Ipipenalize kayo ng BAR. Excuse me. So, para hindi tayo ma-penalize ng BAR, gawan na natin ng updates yung ating Certificate of Registration para mailagay na po dyan ang tax type na withholding tax on compensation, no? Okay, so wala nang question? Shout out. Natulog na? Natulog na sila?
Ito nga, may mga...
Okay.
Galing po kay Sir Charles Serrato po.
Okay, sige.
Sabi naman, for the filing of income tax return for BNBE,
Okay.
they are only exempted from the payment of income tax but not on the filing of ITR.
Yes, tama po kayo. Kasi anong tawag doon sa return nila? The information return. Pagka kasi exempt ang entity or ang taxpayer, ang tawag doon sa return niya, information return. Why? Why information return? Kasi magsasubmit pa rin siya ng income statement, balance sheet, financial statements. Pero pagdating sa computation ng tax, zero na. Bakit? Kasi by express provision of the law, exempt siya. Pero yung filing, hindi po siya exempt. Pati yung bookkeeping pati mga issuance ng resibo, hindi po yan exempt. Kahit exempt ka sa payment ng taxes, meron ka pa rin issuance ng receipts, may administrative requirements pa rin na dapat mo i-comply.
May karugtong bang sabi niya, to clarify, should the BNBE file zero on the ITR or input the total sales for the period and the total allowable deduction be equal to the sales to make it zero?
Actually, tingnan mo yung COR mo as BMBE. No? So, since kung ano yung nakalagay dyan, subject sa percentage tax, yun lang i-file mo. Pero yung income tax, since wala ka ng income tax, hindi ka na dapat mag-file. No? So, pagdating naman sa financial statement, the usual na financial statement po yung gagawin nyo. The sales, and then i-claim mo yung cost of sales, i-claim mo yung operating expenses. So kahit na lalabas pa dyan, mayroon kang taxable amount, pero wala kang tax due. Why? Because exempt ka under the law. Kaya pagdating na sa net income mo, punta na lahat yan sa retained earnings mo or sa capital mo since wala kang tax na babayaran.
Wala na po tanong, ma'am.
Anong oras na?
10, ma'am, sakto po.
Okay? So, anong na-discuss po natin ngayong gabi? We discuss about the the withholding tax, no? So, iba-ibang klaseng withholding tax at saka yung mga exempted, no? Yung mga diminished benefits, no? At saka yung mga withholding tax on compensation using the withholding tax table. Pero may mga annexes pa po ito. Pagdating dito sa pinakadulo, itong mga annexes na to, isa-isa din po natin na i-discuss sa inyo, lalo na itong mga sworn declaration, no, na ipa-file natin sa BIR so that dun tayo sa rate na mababa. Otherwise, pag walang sworn declaration na i-submit natin sa BIR, dun tayo sa mataas na rate, no? So, ano-ano yung mga reporting requirements ng withholding tax agent, no? Ito yung gagawa siya ng alpha list at then meron din siyang mga sworn declaration na ibibigay sa BIR as to the mga payees or mga taxpayers na withhold niya during the quarter, no? So quarterly na po yung submission ng alpha list of payees, no? So with that, I would like to say thank you. Wala ang humabol.
Wala na po, ma'am. Si
Okay.
Ma'am Lilia, ma'am lang sabi, punta na lang ako sa iyo for the estate transfer.
Yes. Kailangan, no? Huwag mo nang patagalin, Miss Lilia. Bakit? Kasi habang may tax amnesty pa, no? Kung namatay yan ng 2017 and prior years, may amnesty pa. After that, babayad ka na, mataas yung tax due pagka wala ng amnesty, no? So, with that, I would like to say thank you and thank you for watching, no? Let's call it a night, no? Thank you very much.